High noon, Jones and Keefe, WEEI. It's a Celtics Wednesday, which means it's time for Pure Hoops with Turp, Justin Turpin of weei.com. He'll be in the Garden tonight for the Celtics and the Thunder. You'll also catch him on WEEI afternoons later on today. Busy day for you, Turp. What's up?
Must be a big game.
Must be a big game
It is
indeed.
a big game.
I think it is.
All right, more likely finals preview tonight or Saturday's game against the Lakers.
I still think it's tonight,
Yeah.
Celtics Thunder. I think that's been kind of a crash course all season long, and you just see the way they play defense. And Los Angeles has been much better with their defense, but Oklahoma City's been doing it all year long. So I still think this is the most likely finals preview.
Let me ask it a little differently. So the teams are a finals preview. The Lakers were at least a full team.
Right.
Over the weekend. The Celtics were largely a full team outside of Porzingis over the weekend. Who are we actually going to get tonight? I know it's no Jaylen Williams for the Thunder. Are we going to get Porzingis, Tatum? Tatum, I'm assuming, is playing in the game. I know he's
There's no
questionable
way
or
Tatum
whatever.
doesn't play. That's gamesmanship.
But are we going to get the full thing tonight, or is this going to be kind of a watered-down version where it's going to be hard to tell what these teams would look like at full strength?
It's going to be hard to tell because Jaylen Williams is out for the Thunder. But it is interesting that last night the Celtics adjusted the injury report. Originally, Kristaps Porzingis was doubtful. They bumped him up to questionable. And I really do think they just don't know what the hell's going on. Part of it is them just kind of taking it slow just because of his history, and they want to make sure he's good. They're not going to push him right now when they're pretty much locked in for the 2 seed. But I also don't think they actually know what's going on. So he's been going through workouts. He went through a pretty extensive one on Saturday before the game, which usually doesn't happen unless a player's really trying to test out to see if they can play. So I thought he was going to play on Saturday, but he didn't do any workouts last game. So we'll see what happens.
Seems like Drew Holiday came back maybe a little bit sooner, and Porzingis is out a little bit longer. Is that fair? Like the way the timetables lined up?
And from my vantage point, like Drew looks good shooting the ball. I mean, the percentages aren't great, but I think it was like 3 of 5 or whatever, something like that. He's been good, though, shooting the ball. The shot looks fine. He's playing good defense. So, I mean, if you didn't know, you wouldn't really be able to tell that anything's really bothering Drew.
So Porzingis tweeted, and I would agree with that. Like Holiday, it surprised me he was back for that game.
Yeah.
And so that makes me feel better. The Porzingis thing, you just never know that you're going to have him. You can never trust that you're going to have him. We've talked about that a lot with Turp. And you can dial up any Celtics questions you have about Celtics Thunder tonight. Celtics season to this point. We'll talk Celtics City. We'll get into Celtics Lakers and the ratings. All that coming up here. 617-779-7937. But Porzingis tweeted the other day. Was this right after the game?
It was at halftime.
It was in the middle of the game.
Yeah,
okay,
it was
thank
at
you.
halftime.
He said, I've been dealing with some viral illness that we haven't been able to fully identify yet.
I don't love this.
I'm recovering and getting better, still working my way back to full strength to help this team. Thanks for the support. I'm hoping to be fully healthy, or hoping for a fully healthy return, rather, soon.
Is this another outbreak? Is he Rudy Gobert from 2020?
Oh,
5 years ago yesterday.
Was it?
Yeah, they shut down the NBA 5 years ago yesterday.
Oh, man. I was on the air when that happened.
And they still gave out a title
It was
that
so
year.
wild.
I was
crazy.
on the air when
Who
all
won
that happened.
one?
I don't
What
remember.
was it?
I said they still gave out a title that year.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is crazy.
No, we don't
think that was
shut the
LeBron.
sport down
We
for
don't
5
count
months.
that. Yeah, no, we don't count that. I was on the air when that happened. It was like Tom Hanks had COVID.
Yeah.
They shut down the NBA and something. It was like 1,
you
2,
remember
3,
the
boom,
Rudy
boom, boom, all
And
at
they
once.
shut down the NHL that night.
Yeah, was that what it was?
It was like an hour after the NBA.
There were like 3 things all at once.
And
I'm
then
like,
the
oh,
NCAA
boy.
tournament was the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
and
was
like
supposed to
some
start that
tournaments
day.
kept playing, some didn't. I remember Rudy Gobert had that press conference when they were like asking him about it, and then he like got up and like touched all the
He was, like,
microphones. You're
licking
"Dude, what are you
everybody's
doing?"
tape recorder.
And then didn't the Jazz play
The
in
Celtics.
Boston? Because
No,
everybody was
No,
right?
the Celtics were there, weren't they?
No.
There was some connection,
The
or
Jazz
maybe
were
were
the,
here?
supposed to play that night.
maybe
I
the
believe.
team they played
then
here.
something-
There
no,
was some
no,
weird
something
like
like
follow
that.
the footsteps.
Because
Yeah.
Smart got it early, right?
I honestly don't remember.
I think Smart was one
It
of
was
the
a
first
wild-
players who had it, yeah.
But they were here right before
Okay,
it happened.
that's
I think
what it
that's
was.
what it was because
There
they
you
were
go.
supposed to play that night, but then he tested positive and they shut it all
Game
down.
tonight has been postponed. You're all safe.
You're all safe.
He repeated it
that
after
was
that.
the
so-
that was the Thunder PA announcer.
No, you're all good. Don't worry about it. Everybody's fine. We don't know how any of this works yet, but you're good.
According to the Boston Herald, Marcus Smart was the first professional athlete in Boston to test positive for COVID-19 March 19th.
We are all safe.
So there you go.
How about that?
Wow. What were we talking about? Oh,
Wild
Porzingis
times.
and his viral,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
possibly outbreak level ground
Doesn't
zero.
sound great.
viral
Like,
infection.
Well, no, but when he says like we're trying to figure out what it is, like you don't even know what it is at this point. Like, good Lord, I thought we'd have enough issues with him when it comes to like, elbow, knee, shoulder, back, everything else. But now you add this on top of it.
I also think people are like, why is he around the team if he's sick? Because he's been on the sideline. He's been at practices. He played a game before he missed a game because of the illness, then played a game, and then has now missed 6 straight. So he's missed 7 of the last 8 because of this. I just think seeing him around the team, it's like, why can't he play? Why is he around the team? And he can be around everybody, and he's not contagious enough to spread it. But, I mean, I don't know. It was weird that they couldn't find out what it is, but it's a good sign that he's going through practices and stuff and just trying to get back.
To me, it's just a reminder, again, you're not going to have him for the playoff run.
It might be like last year where he plays a couple games, then he's out again, then he plays a couple games. Yeah, you can't rely on him.
I don't think you need him. Horford was excellent over the weekend against the Lakers.
And week before against Denver.
He was excellent in the playoffs last year. Large. I mean, excellent might be too strong, but he's more than most teams have to replace a guy like Porzingis. So I don't think you need him, even with what should be a more difficult road. But it's just a reminder, you can't rely on him, and I'd be surprised if they have him for the full run.
In a way, Horford's become underrated. Just what he's able to do for this team. I mean, defensively especially, you don't see a player of that size, a big like that, especially at that age, have the switchability that Horford does. I mean, they were switching him on Luka last game or against the Lakers on Saturday. The week before, they were trying to get Jamal Murray on him, and he does a great job defending these guards. And no matter what role he's in, when he comes off the bench, he still does it, though he doesn't necessarily shoot the ball as well when he comes off the bench. But no matter what role they need him in, he does a great job. So if you need to rely on Horford more in the playoffs, which they're gonna, he's going to be ready to go. And I think they've done a good job of managing his minutes. When he plays a lot of minutes, it's usually in games they really want to win. So tonight, coming off 3 days of rest, I'd expect high minutes from him, especially with this being kind of their last tune-up. After tonight, they're going to have 16 more games. Only 3 of them are against teams with winning records.
Wow. Thunder the best defensive team in the league?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. They have the number 1 defensive rating, and they've held opponents under 100 points 19 times this year.
Jeepers.
19 times in today's NBA, under 100 points. That's hard to do.
The Celtics were one of them, right? The Celtics at least went ice cold in that second half.
Yeah, they scored 29 points, I think it was, in that second half, and they made 8 shots in the entire second half.
We were just talking about this, so it's worth asking. One of the would you rathers was who's the MVP? Is it Jokic? Is it SGA? Who's the MVP of the league?
Jokic.
Yeah, okay, we agree on
and that. I think, what he did Friday night with the 30-20-20 game, it's never been done in the NBA. One game doesn't solidify it, but that makes one hell of a case. And like Keefe said earlier, he's putting up better numbers than he has in MVP seasons in the past. I don't know what he does both ways. And just if you look at the deeper numbers, we were talking about this when he missed the game against the Celtics earlier in the season. They're one of the worst teams in the league by the numbers when he's off the floor. By the meaning of the word most valuable player, it is Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, the SGA thing is interesting, too, because, if he wins an MVP before Tatum, I think Tatum does have a right to be annoyed by that.
Definitely.
If Jokic wins again and he's
you got to tip your cap.
Who's got the better resume than me? It's I don't know, Jokic. So, there's guys with better resumes, but I'd be annoyed if I were Tatum, if SGA won before.
But Jokic is also on that path, if he's not already there, as one of the all-time great players. Yep. You're going to have to rearrange your top 20, your top 15, your top 10. I tried telling you
all those years ago. I know you wouldn't listen.
You were on it. You were on this. You were ahead of the curve. But it is one of those guys sort of similar to Jordan and LeBron, where if you played in that era and you either didn't win an MVP or you won one, you're like, well, I played with Jokic. Right. Or I played with LeBron. Right. So how many did you really want me to win?
Jokic won every year. What do you want me to do?
So that could be how many prime years will Tatum have when Jokic is out of the league? What is he, 3 years younger than him? So maybe only a couple.
And how long does Jokic actually play?
He doesn't seem like he even likes it.
Right.
He seems like he's annoyed to play. It's unbelievable. You ask him, he's like, I don't care. Some of those memes are making the rounds. And they're like, hey, you had a 30-20-20 game. He's staring at it
whatever.
A death stare. He's like, I don't care. I just want to go home. Remember how upset he was to go to the parade a couple years ago?
I need to go home.
Yeah, he just wants to go home. Be with his horses. Guy doesn't even like basketball.
You don't think he's going to play for a long time?
Oh, I mean, I'm just saying he's probably not as much as Tatum.
Body type wise, you mean?
No, not necessarily. Possibly even just interest wise.
Got it. Okay.
I mean, you just look at him, you wouldn't think body type wise he could make it all those years, but he's the best player in the sport. There's no sign that his body's slowed down at all.
Yeah,
so
incredible.
I just think more so interest wise, is he gonna want to play until he's almost 40? I don't get that vibe from him, whereas Tatum, he's gonna play for a long time.
Celtics Lakers ratings are in and they're massive. The game averaged 4.61 million viewers on Saturday night, prime time, on ABC. It's the most watched regular season game in 7 years, excluding Christmas Day. So non-Christmas Day NBA games, it's the most watched in 7 years. It was up 92% in a comparable window. The game peaked at 5.3 million viewers, most watched program in primetime on Saturday night. The NBA obviously would love Celtics and Lakers. We would all love Celtics and Lakers.
If it's Celtics-Lakers, you'll get way more conspiracy than it's
Right?
theories.
Yeah, I would assume.
Especially if there's like a couple weird calls in the playoffs for the Lakers, because that would outrate any other possible matchup by
everyone else
double.
Would also look at the Luka trade.
Well, right. They'd look back on that and be like, is Nico Harrison just actually like Lee Harvey Oswald?
Right. And even if you
go down that road?
even if you don't want to go back, not even just down that road, but back to the trade. I know Conspiracy Curtis has been doing this.
He has.
But even if you don't want to go there, how can you not watch games? And I'm not the biggest, criticize the refs guy, but how can you not watch critical calls in the Lakers games and just kind of wonder, oh, yeah, Celtics-Lakers would be pretty good for the NBA.
It'd be amazing.
I don't know how you can't watch Lakers-Nuggets or Lakers-Thunder and not have that in the back of your mind.
I mean, I don't subscribe to the theory that any professional sport is rigged. I just think there's way too much that goes into it, and especially now with the sports betting and all that, it's just – there's no way it is, but I think teams do get favorable calls. Like, the league, of course, has matchups they want to see, and there's no direct way of rigging a game, but if you get favorable calls, maybe that does make a little bit of a difference. So I think the NBA would absolutely want this. A lot of people, myself included, think it'll be Celtics Thunder, but I think the NBA is really pushing for Celtics Lakers, especially after this game where people are saying, this is the rebirth of one of the greatest rivalries in sports.
Oh, 100%.
And now the first year, and it's going to change when LeBron's gone. You don't know how many more years LeBron has, so you want to maximize that window, and of course they're going to want to see him get into the finals one more time.
Well, and this is also this, whether Tatum's underappreciated or not in that whole storyline. It just, the state the NBA is in right now, they still would love to market LeBron and Curry and Durant, but it's more and more difficult to do that. Ideally, it might be Tatum and SGA. Those might be the two guys, but neither one really have the kind of personalities that some of the other ones have.
Do any of the young players really do, with the exception of Anthony Edwards?
Yeah, it might just be
but
Edwards.
Even the older guys like KD, LeBron, Steph, did they really have those crazy, I'm going to yell in your face kind of mentalities?
Steph was more the style of play.
Only if it's
a killer.
Only if it's Stephen A.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know what it. Real quick on the Thunder. No Jaylen Williams tonight, obviously, is a shame. Chet Holmgren had a broken pelvis, I think it was, at the beginning of the year, right?
Yeah.
But he's come back. He's another one of these guys. It's not to the extreme of Wembayama, but 7'1", 200 pounds. He's an odd guy to watch, odd looking, but he's actually bounced back all right. How good do you think he is?
I think he's really good, and I think he fits that system perfectly because when they have a big 7-foot big in there, they are borderline unstoppable. They're a great team when they have their 7-footers in there. And Chet, like you said, has a really unique body type.
He sure does.
Obviously missed his rookie year, came back and had a great season last year, played all 82. So he can stay healthy. You just hope he does because he can be really good.
What was your takeaway from Celtics-Lakers on the floor? Not just the ratings, which were massive, and not just, again, the Celtics mostly at full strength, getting back Holiday, not having Porzingis. What was your takeaway about the matchup?
Tatum and Brown look so much more comfortable in these big games. And even Friday night against the Cavs, when they lost, they combined for 83 points. It certainly wasn't their fault that it happened. And then against the Lakers, I mean, I wrote it in my article. I forget the number off the top of my head. I think it was 34 of the 40 makes the Celtics had were scored or assisted by Jayson Tatum or Jaylen Brown. And they had a hand in almost every bucket.
It was striking watching Luka, too. I heard Arkan talking about this last night. It was pretty funny. Where, Luka not only had the heating pack on his back where he was constantly looking like he's 50 years old, but it was only on defense, which made him look extra pathetic. He would hobble around on defense and not be able to move, and then he'd get the basketball and he'd click in and be fine. I think that's striking when you watch Tatum and Brown versus LeBron out of the game and then Luka hobbling around and you go, okay, this is a team in their prime.
So it was 34-40. That's 85%, which is just insane. And another thing about that, too, like you said, the defense, both Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown play extraordinary individual defense.
Well,
what he did to
Jaylen
Luka,
on Luka, exactly.
It's incredible. He just bothers him so much, and it wears Luka so much on the he wears himself out so much on the offensive side, it hurts their defense, which we saw the entire NBA Finals run. So I think games like that, especially with their defense, it really highlights how good they are as two-way players. Because when they're putting up these big scoring nights, it's easy to overlook their defense. But night in and night out, they bring it defensively. And Joe Mazzulla gives them a ton of credit for that because the Celtics want to pride themselves on the defensive end. And when your two best players are doing that, it's kind of easy to follow suit.
What did you think of the second episode of Celtic City, the documentary on HBO? This one was really about Bill Russell in the city, really in the 60s. Bill Russell as the head coach and, the post-Bob Cousy days. But what was your takeaway from this episode?
I mean, the first thing that came to my mind was towards the end is it's incredible that he was a player coach.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just not talked about enough. This guy was playing 40 minutes and also coaching them, and he's going to battle with Wilt Chamberlain.
Kind of makes you think less of Red.
That's a good take.
I mean, if you want to skew negative,
it's like, the whole time.
Oh my God, Red, what a coach! It's like, nah. It turns out they just had a lot of talent, and Bill Russell could coach them.
But Red was the GM then.
True.
He became the GM, and he's like, I'm going to get Bill Russell.
Although again, if you want to play this game, I'm down on Red after watching 2 episodes.
You're down on Red.
He also hated Bob Cousy. Red didn't even want Bob Cousy.
He didn't want him.
Good point.
Red didn't want Bob Cousy.
But all he wanted to do was win.
Ownership, he didn't want Bob Cousy.
Yeah.
Ownership twisted his arm on bringing in Bob Cousy, and then they won without him with Bill Russell coaching. Not that these aren't things we didn't know, but it's just a reminder, maybe a little overrated.
Speaking of, things that...
Red overrated. That's my takeaway after
fine.
2 episodes.
Okay,
Red stinks. Yeah.
But also just how obnoxious and how the stuff that Bill Russell had to deal with, and in that press conference, and we've read these stories, we've heard about these stories, but it's gross to watch it. And the guy wins a title as a player coach. First question to Red Auerbach: you happy with the coaching? Are you serious? Dude?
How about was it his introductory press conference? This I didn't realize. How about the question and the?
They were basically like, "Are you going to be racist the other way?"
The reporter's like, "This is a sensitive question." I'm like, "Oh God, what is this?
Where's this going?"
And he's like, "Oh, can you promise you won't be favorable to black players effectively?
Yeah.
You won't be a reverse racist effectively?" And it's like, that's his introductory press conference.
It's funny too because Red was the first coach to insert an all-black starting 5.
Mm-hmm.
So it had already been done within the franchise, which just the line of questioning was.
But
crazy.
how about that? They talked about the NBA quota. They were it was sort of an unwritten thing where you had to have a certain number of white players on the court at all times. And then so when Tommy Heinsohn got hurt, they were like, well, "This is our best lineup. We're trying to win, so here we go." And everybody around the league was like, "You can't do that."
And just what Bill Russell was doing too, he was playing, coaching. He's a trailblazer in the civil rights movement.
Oh, yeah.
Just all the stuff he did, to see it kind of unfold like that over the documentary is incredible. And what he was dealing with and doing it, and they were still wildly successful.
Well, and walking away after a title like that, you almost wonder, all right, how many more could he have won?
Didn't even go to the parade after.
Didn't even go to the parade.
He's just like, I'm done.
How many more could he have won?
So it's interesting. I would say, well, number one, I mostly am over listening, not to dump on Red more. I'm mostly
I was not ready for this.
I'm mostly over listening to Red's daughters picking through all the knickknacks in their house. I'm done with that. I've seen 2 episodes of that. Don't need it anymore.
Well, that's the tough part. You brought this up. I mean, you can't get new interviews with Red and with Russell. So
they do a great job though using those
the old footage. Yeah,
no, they do. And Bill Russell's daughter. Again, I'm like, why are we talking to Bill Russell's daughter? But to have somebody who lived in the home, where they broke into the Russell family's home, and someone defecates in the man's bed after threatening everybody's life, to have her there when she was in the house, that, I thought there was some actual value to that. And that's a heartbreaking story to listen to her as a child, have to live through that. But I would say the standout so far, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the standout through 2 episodes.
Shaughnessy.
I did like the Shaughnessy cameos. I did.
Those guys just kicking it in a breezeway?
Yeah, on the porch.
Billy and Nick, I was bitching after the first episode. I'm like, they better have Shaughnessy in this thing. Simmons better get over his Shaughnessy bias or anti-Shaughnessy and get him in the episode, and he's in.
He's in there.
I think Satch Sanders has been the star of this thing.
Satch has been really good. I agree.
He's a great storyteller.
Yeah.
And they had him at Slade's, he's in the bar, he's looking at it, he's like, I haven't been in here in forever. I think Satch Sanders through 2 episodes, and again, you're limited in how many guys are alive. It's pretty much him and Bob Cousy.
That story about how he's been hated
great.
Bill Sharman. Then he's like, I like him.
He's been great.
Guy. But because you can get somebody to tell some of those stories and sort of bridge that gap, because that is so long ago, and unfortunately we've lost so many members of that team. And so how many can you get sort of new stories from? And so he's been really good. I know this is going to be a long documentary, but I am interested to see sort of where this goes. We haven't even scratched the surface on Bird, McHale, Parrish.
I mean, you're going to need another month
Pierce.
before we get to the 80s Celtics, Yeah,
there's not a lot on right now. I'm fine with it. I look forward to the next episode.
I also like how sharp both Satch Sanders and Bob Cousy are. They're really sharp in explaining these stories.
Satch
I think he is.
All right. No, Satch is.
I don't know that sharp is the word I'd use for Bob Cousy.
I thought he was great.
But no, I mean, look, good. Sharp is not the word I would use. But when it comes to Jerry West, you mentioned West too. I think West has kind of been a standout through 2 episodes too.
But I love that about West is like, I think there are some athletes today that feel this way, but I think there's, the money and the fame and everything else has sort of changed it. But like Jerry West is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He's the logo of the freaking NBA, and it still kills him. Like those games, he's like, the Celtics have ruined my life.
He's
literally said that. Like, the Celtics ruined my life.
And he's still just so upset about the balloons at the old Forum.
I don't think that guy can ever look at a balloon.
No, it's amazing.
Just furious.
But that's what it should be. That's what we all want it to be, right? When you watch these guys, you're like, we care so much about it as fans. Like, I hope the players care about it. I don't know if anybody cared about it more than Jerry West.
They had like these balloons ready to go, and they had a whole itinerary like lining out what was going to go down when the Lakers won.
Well, prepared.
I had heard that story. And that's a well documented story. And maybe Jerry West has been interviewed about it a bunch. I hadn't really heard him talking about it. Maybe it's well documented.
I'm glad they got him because he could have said "F you." Like, hey, do you want to do a Celtics documentary? He could have been like, no. Yeah. But he's added a nice other side to it.
Every time he mentions the word Celtic, he's just so bitter.
He's
and
mad as
so
hell.
angry about it all.
It's great. It's true. Well, Turp, every Celtics Wednesday at high noon, we call it Pure Hoops with Turp, Justin Turpin. Check out his work at weei.com. Check him out on Twitter at Justin M. Turpin. And check him out at 3:30 today on WEEI Afternoons. They're double dipping.
That's right. Double dipping.
That?
Huge game.
All right.
Big game. Celtics and Thunder tonight. Turp will be at Scores with the whole WEEI Afternoons crew at 3:30. You can check it out on the Odyssey app. Turp, thanks so much.